I think I should start by telling you something about my family. A few days ago, my 8-year-old rebelled. And as a result, all that I have to give is these 2-3 sheets. My 8-year-old is my 8-year-old computer. So that's where we are. Let me start right away. Even as Pope Francis highlights the contributions of the Synod Fathers, in his writing of the Amoris Laetitia, he makes his thoughts even clearer by adding his own emphasis right through the text, which increases its impact on people's everyday lives as married people. Pope Francis seems to have the ability to give expression to the lived experience of people. I'm going to read that again. Pope Francis seems to have the ability to give expression to the lived experience of people, an approach so much needed in our times when communication is accompanied by the tyrannies of technology and the faster pace of life everywhere. Pope Francis's reflection ever so often revealed a deep understanding of the role of psychology's action in human living. He seems to be a master at blending together the riches of the faith-based studies. So there are studies that are faith-based, and then the so-called secular reference. This might explain why these references to psychology, which are so very gentle, are nevertheless uniquely rich in significance. Psychology and the sacred sciences, as the Pope seems to lay them out, do not conflict seriously. However, this camaraderie between the secular and the sacred can stand only on a psychology that emphasizes true humanity with all its dimensions, including the dimension of the spiritual, and avoiding fragmentations that would otherwise creep. But do we have such a psychology which can blend with the spiritual? Fortunately, the search for such a psychology is beginning to see some positive results with the recent release of one of the most relevant publications. The book is called The Catholic Christian Meta-Model of the Person, Integration of Psychology and Mental Health Practice, edited by Dr. or Professors Paul C. Witz and his team, published by the Divine Mercy University. Have you ever heard about that university? Divine Mercy University, which is in close proximity to Washington, D.C. Published in 2020, this book is a foundation text demonstrating a more systematic, integrative, and non-reductionist version of the person, marriage, family, and society than is found in any of these disciplines alone. The meta-model is a unifying framework for the integration of already published existing personality theories and therapeutic models. As you can see very well, just as even though the other groups had a lot of things to quote when it was a matter of theological approach to things, we had an issue in psychology. Nobody seems to be caring too much for it. So not much is being written. And so that's where we are. At least let us start by saying psychology is very much needed in the preparation for marriage. I can say clearly because for 5 years I conducted preparation for marriage in the US. And young couples, I used a psychological instrument which had 150 questions. 150 questions. And they would fill that out and bring it to me, have it, scored, and then starts off. And what do we start off with? My first requirement for anybody who used to come to me was set aside 6 months for your preparation. And that would create a lot of trouble. But then I say, otherwise I don't take you. And so they would all come in for the 6 months. The beauty of it is what would happen to them in those 6 months is fantastic. Now, let me say things like, this particular case that we have. Sorry, I'm going to be a little different from the other talks because we from psychology, we don't have the same background material which we can have from theology. And so, this particular first group that we talk about is a boy and a girl, a Marwari girl from India, going to marry a Filipino Catholic. And so I had to, prepare them for marriage and so on. So they agreed to the full 6 months preparation. And they came in and we went through one by one, right? Day by day, I take a question at a time, go over it and work on it and so on and so forth. And they managed to get through all of it. And then finally we had this most beautiful wedding, wonderful wedding, and so on, and they took off. I received a few emails for a few months after everything stopped. And I thought that was the end, both of their relationship with me, and I hope not marriage. It went on at the end of the second year, just before, a few days before the Easter, I received an email from my friend, the girl. Her name was Chanti. You said Chanti, did you? And what was the saying? She said, Father, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, on Holy Saturday night, I am going to become a Catholic. Don't forget, she was Hindu, she was Marwari, and so on. And then she added another line. Perhaps you don't understand how I could make this decision now. I'll tell you. When you were giving us the practice of the preparation for marriage, I was waiting to hear from you saying, become a Catholic. And you never said it. And you gave me quiz. The whole time I was quizzed. What kind of a thing is this? What kind of a religion is this? And then they had their marriage, they went back, and she said, I want to find out what kind of religion is this? And that is what took me to the adult preparation in the parish, in their own parish. And in this, about 1 year's time, she got so prepared and she wanted to become a Catholic and she got Catholic. Well, here it is, someone who does not preach had a good impact. How does that look? All right. So, Pope Francis, when he speaks about, this, what we call, psychology and all that sort of thing, he says a few things like this. We must message the marriage system and its beauty. We must message marriage and its beauty, he says, Pope Francis. Messaging, what does it mean by messaging? We have been called to form consciences, not to replace them. Can you catch what that means? I'll repeat it. We have been called to form consciences, not to replace them. How do we replace somebody else's conscience? When they have a problem, they come to us and they say, no, that is not the way, this is the right way. This you must go and say, I don't agree with it, I don't understand. This chapter goes on and on and on and on and on. Instead, Pope Francis says, we are not called to replace the consciences of others. We are called to form them. Maybe that's what I did. I don't know. I think that's probably what I did. And this approach to formation, therefore, a formation in which we are not telling them what to do, but we are trying to form them into making their own decisions, is what I call transformative formation. I am not actually campaigning for transformative formation. It is what I do as a court living and so on. It's working well. Another case that I had was Christine and Nicholas. They were both, Nicholas was Irish and Boston was, what do you call it? Christine was from Boston, she was American, and so on. And they came for this program. Christine's one condition, Father, they are forcing me. Mommy is forcing me to come to you for marriage preparation. I came on condition that the wedding will be conducted not in a church. And I said, where do you want it then? I want it on the beach. Alright. I didn't say a word. I said, go ahead. And then she brought her, and she came over all the way to California because her boyfriend was working in Silicon Valley. And so finally, they come to me and I said, I don't want marriage in the church. Again, she reminded me. I didn't say a word even then. And so on. Anyway, we started the process. And finally, about 75% of the system was gone through me. And when she came, she said, Father, I have made a decision. What is that? I will have it in the church. Yeah. I said, that you have made a decision. How about him? What does he think? Oh, I didn't ask him. Alright, I go away, both of you sit down here, talk about it, and if you come to a decision, well and good. And so on. And sure enough, they both together decided to have it in church. We had a wonderful wedding in the beautiful church at that place with all of the family present and more than that too. So that was a really wonderful kind of thing. Here is another time when I cannot force somebody to accept my point of view because it is the right point of view. It was the right point of view. But I gave them time to accept it and so on. I know the bell has gone and all that. So here it is, the Holy Father says, learn how to speak. He has said that many places. Learn how to speak to the people. Now, I'm not giving myself as a model. Sometimes it works, I suppose, sometimes it may not work. That is not the point. Learn how to speak in such a way that they become part of the decision that is being made. They become part of the belief of the church, not because we forced them, but they discovered it for themselves. And that calls for a different methodology. This is why, from a psychological perspective, I feel that this is one area that we can really push. How to do teaching, how to do preaching, how to do all this stuff in which you're trying to, convince other people. It is in the area of human sciences. And we need to develop these things as we would develop anything that is spiritual and scriptural and all that and so on. The last part of my talk, I'm cutting off the rest. The last part of my talk is a place where I'm going to throw some stuff at you. And sometimes I'll ask you, what do you think? And so on. First of all, I went through the Holy Father's talks. There are certain things that are briefly mentioned. There are a few things that are not mentioned. But I know that the Holy Father has considered them seriously by reading the other materials in the text. The other materials in the text would not have been, articulated the way he has done unless he had a very strong support from what we call human sciences. And therefore, let me ask you a question. He has used the word resilience, just one place only. And yet, here is what I have to say. A spirituality of resilience is there in the text, but it needs more emphasis. In today's context, resilience, what is it? It is the ability to strike back after traumatic experiences. This needs to be there. It's a necessary accompaniment for any high voltage traumas. Think of two people who are having marital problems. What are they experiencing? It is a traumatic experience. Worse still, if they decide to separate or live separately, it is a trauma. It's a huge trauma. And when they come back to us, suppose, for some reason, for whatever reason, either they decide to go further far away or they come back to us, etc. What do we do with them? Almost nothing. We give them a blessing, which is very good, which is very, very important. But how about organizing some sort of what we call here training in resilience. You have created a problem for yourself, but you have resolved it. And from this, you have learned. You don't want to stop? You have learned. What have you learned? Is the question. They must build it up for themselves. Give me just 2-3 minutes more, if you don't mind. Will you? Or you're very tired, I know.